So, was it actually Guy Fawkes' plan? Well, let's look into it. The gunpowder plot of 1605 was devised by a group of English Catholics who were obviously against the Protestants and were frustrated that their branch of Christianity, which is the Catholicism, was not being treated fairly according to them. A year before, King James I, had publicly condemned Catholicism as a superstition and ordered all the Catholic priests to leave England. Now, led by Robert Catesby, the Catholic rebels wanted to blow up King James I and his ministers in the Parliament during the state opening of Parliament on November the 5th. And what they actually planned to do was to put James's daughter, 9-year-old daughter, on the throne instead of James after they would have obviously blown it up. And that was because whoever was the protectorate of his daughter was actually sympathetic to their cause. So the group actually met in the May of 1604, and they swore an oath of secrecy upon a prayer book. Then they gradually moved 2.5 tons of gunpowder into a cellar under the Palace of Westminster. Now, small note, if they had succeeded, it would have probably been the largest terrorist plot England had ever seen. It would have damaged everyone within a 500-meter radius from the center of the explosion. So pretty huge. It's very interesting actually because Guy Fawkes was born a Protestant, but he converted to Catholicism in his teens and was just the person who was meant to set the fuse because he had experience with gunpowder from his time as a soldier. He was never the group's leader, so to speak, but he was, the trigger guy. So what happened to him was he initially refused to reveal any detail about the plot, but even claimed like his name was John Johnson, but he was still arrested and tortured. And once he had confessed, he was dragged to the gallows by a horse and had to watch as 3 of his co-conspirators were hung, cut down, and dismembered. But he actually refused to die the same way. He instead leapt from the platform of the gallows and broke his neck, and that's what killed him. Officials still went through with the hanging though and sent his body quarters, cut down his body quarters around the country as an example of what happened to anyone who committed treason. The school in York, St. Peter's, where Guy Fawkes went to, over there he's referred as their most infamous student, but the school refuses to burn his image out of respect for him as a former pupil. A pub opposite the church where he was baptized is also the Guy Fawkes Inn, and his influence extends beyond his hometown. The Palace of Westminster is still searched every year before the state opening of Parliament, which has occurred in November every year since 1928, in case of any copycat attempts. Historian William B. Robison of Southeastern Louisiana University said that every generation reinvents Guy Fawkes to suit their needs. But Guy Fawkes was just one of the flunkies. It really should be Robert Catesby Day, although who cares really. We think about why is, sometimes he's known as Guido Fawkes. Well, that was because when he was 21 years old, Fawkes went to Europe to fight for Spain in the 80 Years' War and chose to take on the Italian version of his name. Speculated that was meant to show his enthusiasm for the Vatican. Also goes to show that, his personality as a traitor was in the making from a very long time ago. He also tried to bolster support for an English Catholic uprising from the Spanish king, Philip III, during his time, but he failed. His name, for a period of time, became a derogatory term. It was known that Guy became a pejorative term used to describe someone as grotesque. Although nowadays, obviously, it's referred to as, for a man or a person, just Guy. So how did the plot unravel? What happened? Well, an anonymous letter to a Lord Monteagle derailed the plot, and that letter read, "Out of the love I bear some of your friends. I would advise you, as you tender your life, to devise some excuse to shift your attendance at this parliament. For though there be no appearance of any stir, yet I say they shall receive a terrible blow." It's still not known who sent this letter, but Monteagle told the king in exchange for £500 and a hefty lump of land. It was initially dismissed as a hoax, but officials set out to check the grounds anyway. The first search carried out by the Earl of Suffolk was unsuccessful, but on the second attempt they found Fawkes a little after midnight. Interestingly, the cellar where the bomb was meant to go off was actually destroyed previously in a 1834 fire which ripped through the parliament at that time. Once news of the incident broke, people around the country started to light bonfires and put effigies on top to mark the occasion. Initially, it was the Pope who was sat on the bonfire, not Fawkes, and when the celebration spread across the Atlantic to North America, they started to burn an effigy of the Pope too, in what was called Pope Day. But later on, it evolved to having Guy Fawkes as an effigy that would be burned on bonfires.